My sister let me organize her baby shower while I was pregnant, but when her friend publicly humiliated me about my miscarriage and nobody defended me, I had my daughter in secret and the family found out through Instagram 9 months later. I'm 32 years old. I work as a project manager at a tech company, and what happened almost 2 years ago completely changed my perspective on what family means. I guess I should start from the beginning. When my husband Eric and I had been trying to have a baby for like 2 years with no success. It's not something I talked about much, you know, because it's super personal and also people always have something to say. Like, just relax and it'll happen, or my cousin did this and it worked, as if it were that easy. The truth is, I had had a miscarriage like a year before all this, and that experience was devastating. I mean, there's no other word to describe it. My family knew about the miscarriage because it happened during Christmas holidays and it was basically impossible to hide. My younger sister Morgan, who's 28, was, let's say she wasn't exactly compassionate. It's not that she was directly cruel, but there was this thing where she would always say things like, well, at least, you can get pregnant, or everything happens for a reason, and there I was trying not to collapse emotionally. My mom, Deborah, tried to keep the peace between us, but it was obvious Morgan was her favorite. She always had been. My dad, Paul, basically didn't get involved in anything emotional. He's one of those men who prefer to be in their garage fixing things rather than dealing with feelings. So fast forward to February of last year. I had been feeling weird for like a week, like tired all the time and nauseous in the mornings, but honestly, I thought it was work stress. Eric convinced me to take a pregnancy test, mostly to rule it out, and it turns out it came back positive. I remember I just stared at that pink line for like 10 minutes, unable to process what I was seeing. I called Eric at work and he got home in record time, literally left an important meeting halfway through, and we both just stood there in the bathroom, crying with happiness and terror at the same time because after everything we'd been through, it was hard to believe this time could work out. We decided not to tell anyone until after the first trimester, which is super common, but also because I needed that time to process everything without the pressure of my family's opinions. And this is where the story gets interesting, because literally 2 days after I found out about the pregnancy, Morgan called me all excited to tell me she was also pregnant. She was like 2 months along already and wanted me to help her organize her baby shower because, and I quote, "You're so good at organizing things and I trust your taste." I was speechless. I mean, what was I supposed to say? Congratulations, sister. I'm also pregnant, but I can't tell you yet, so I'm going to spend the next few months organizing your party while keeping my own secret. But I said yes because, well, that's what sisters are supposed to do, right? The next 3 months were crazy. Morgan had a very specific vision for her baby shower, like Pinterest perfect but multiplied by 1,000. She wanted everything in soft pink and gold tones, handmade decorations, a 5-course menu, personalized games, and basically wanted it to look like a small wedding but for babies. I was there, coordinating with the venue, the vendors, the catering, everything, while dealing with my own morning sickness, which thank God wasn't too severe. Eric told me I didn't have to do all that Morgan could hire someone or do it herself, but I felt like I needed to do it. I guess part of me wanted to prove I could be a good aunt, even if at that moment I felt super vulnerable with my own pregnancy. I spent like $3,000 of my own money on that party, not counting the hours of work I put into it. Morgan had said she would pay half of the catering, which was the most expensive thing, like $2,500 total. So, I paid my half up front, and she was supposedly going to pay the other half on the day of the event. The baby shower was scheduled for mid-May. I was going to be at like week 14 or so, and I had decided that after the party I would tell everyone about my pregnancy. I had it all planned. I had even bought some cute cards to announce the news. The day of the baby shower arrived and everything looked perfect. Literally like from a magazine. I had spent the entire morning before decorating the place, which was a beautiful venue with big windows and gardens around it. The tables had fresh flower centerpieces that I had arranged myself, because apparently now I was a florist too. There was a candy bar with sweets in every shade of pink you can imagine. And the catering had prepared these gourmet appetizers that looked amazing. Morgan arrived like a queen, with a pink dress that probably cost more than my monthly rent, and her best friend Lindsay was attached to her as always. Lindsay and I had never gotten along, to be honest. She's one of those people who are dramatic about everything, and always have to be the center of attention. She's like 29 and works at, I don't know what social media thing. She's always taking photos for Instagram and making scenes about anything. Morgan and she have been friends since college. And honestly, sometimes I feel like Lindsay has more influence over my sister than I do, which has always bothered me, but well, it's not my place to say who my sister should be friends with. The party was going well for the first 2 hours. People were eating. We played the stupid baby shower games that Morgan had insisted on having, and everything seemed to be going according to plan. I was tired, obviously, because I had been on my feet basically since 6 inches the morning, preparing everything. But I felt good knowing that after this I could finally share my own news. My mom was there helping me a little. My dad came too, although he clearly would have preferred to be anywhere else. And there were like 40 guests total. Then came the time to open the gifts. Morgan was sitting in this chair specially decorated for her, like a throne, and Lindsay was next to her helping her open things and making comments about each gift. I was sitting a little further back with Eric, trying to enjoy the moment and thinking that all this was almost over. Morgan opened several gifts: baby clothes, toys, an expensive stroller someone gave her, and then she got to my gift. I had bought her a pretty significant gift. I mean, it wasn't cheap. It was this super modern baby monitor with a camera and everything that I had researched for weeks to find the best one. I wrapped it nicely and put a card on it that said something like, "For my future niece or nephew, with all my love, Aunt Natalie." Morgan opened it and said thanks casually, like she didn't even look at it properly, and moved on to the next gift. I felt a little hurt by her reaction, but well, there were a lot of gifts, so I figured she was overwhelmed. But then Lindsay took the monitor and said really loudly, so everyone could hear, "Oh, Morgan, how sweet that Natalie gave you this. I'm sure she wants to live the baby experience through you since she can't have children." There was this horrible silence throughout the entire room. People literally stopped talking and everyone turned to look at me. I felt like someone had thrown a bucket of ice water on me. I mean, I couldn't believe what I had just heard. Eric immediately squeezed my hand, and I felt him tense up next to me. But Lindsay didn't stop there. "And this is what I still can't forgive," she continued saying, with that fake smile she has. "Plus, after her miscarriage last year, it's probably better she doesn't have kids. Imagine the trauma for everyone if it happens again." I heard her, but it was like my brain couldn't process that those words were coming out of her mouth at that moment, in front of all those people. Some people gasped, others looked away uncomfortably, and I just sat there feeling my face turn red and tears starting to form in my eyes. I looked at Morgan, expecting her to say something, anything, to defend her sister, or at least tell her friend to shut up. But Morgan just laughed a little uncomfortably and said, "Oh, Lindsay, in that tone you use when someone says something inappropriate but you don't want to make a scene." She didn't defend me. She didn't tell her to stop. She just kept opening the next gift like nothing had happened. My mom looked at me with that, "Don't make a scene, just take it" face, and my dad was literally looking at his phone. He probably didn't even hear what happened. I got up from my chair and Eric got up with me. My legs were shaking and I felt like I was going to throw up. And I don't know if it was because of the pregnancy or because of the humiliation I had just suffered. I walked over to where Morgan was and told her, trying to keep my voice calm even though I was about to collapse, that I needed to talk to her in private. Morgan looked at me with annoyance, literal annoyance, and told me I could wait until after because she was busy with her guests. I told her no, that we needed to talk now, and she got up with a dramatic sigh and followed me to a corner of the room. I asked her if she was really going to allow her friend to talk to me like that, to publicly humiliate me about something as painful as my miscarriage and my fertility issues. Morgan looked at me like I was the one being irrational and told me, "It's just Lindsay being Lindsay. You know her? She didn't mean it in a bad way. You know what I mean?" My sister was basically justifying that her friend had just emotionally destroyed me in front of 40 people, because that's just how she is. I told her that either Lindsay apologized and left, or I was leaving. Morgan got upset and told me I was overreacting, that everything Lindsay said was technically true, so why was I being so sensitive about it? That was the straw that broke the camel's back. I looked at my sister. This person I had taken care of when we were kids, for whom I had organized this perfect party spending thousands of dollars and weeks of work, and I realized she didn't care about my pain at all. I told her I was leaving, that I hoped she enjoyed her party, and not to count on me for anything else. She yelled that I always made everything about me, that it was her special day and I was ruining it with my drama, and that if I left like that, not to pay for the catering as I had promised. I left there with Eric, who was furious, like I had never seen him so angry. In the car, I completely broke down, crying in a way I hadn't cried since the miscarriage. Eric drove in silence, but I could see his knuckles white from how hard he was gripping the steering wheel. When we got home, he told me he was going to handle this, that I didn't have to do anything else, and he locked himself in his office. Turns out, Eric wrote a public message on the Facebook post that Lindsay had made about the baby shower because of course, she had uploaded like 50 photos, telling her exactly how cruel and inappropriate her comment had been, and that if she didn't apologize publicly, we would consider taking legal action for defamation and causing emotional distress. I don't know if we really could have done anything legal. Probably not. But Eric's message caused a scandal on social media. Several friends and family members commented supporting me and criticizing Lindsay. She eventually deleted her post and sent me a private message with a super empty apology like, "I'm sorry if you were offended," but never a real apology, acknowledging what she did. I blocked her immediately. But then the worst started. Morgan called me the next day yelling that Eric had ruined her special day with his drama on social media, that Lindsay was crying and devastated. She was devastated? And that I owed them both an apology. I told her she was delusional. If she thought I was going to apologize for defending myself from public sonic verbal abuse. She said that either I apologized and paid my share of the catering, or our relationship as sisters was over. I told her then I guess it was over and hung up. My mom called later trying to mediate, saying we were both overreacting and should forget it for the good of the family. I explained the whole situation to her, hoping she would understand my side, but basically she told me Morgan was pregnant and hormonal, that Lindsay had been insensitive but probably didn't mean it, and that me being the older sister should be more mature and make peace. I told her I wasn't going to apologize for having boundaries and dignity, and if that made me immature, then so be it. I didn't pay the second half of the catering. Morgan had to pay it herself, and apparently made a huge scene about that too. Things got more tense when Morgan had her baby in September. I found out through Facebook, because we weren't talking directly anymore, that she'd had a girl. Part of me felt sad not to be there, not to meet my niece, but a bigger part was at peace with my decision. Like 2 weeks after the birth, Morgan sent me a message saying she wanted to make peace, that the baby needed to meet her aunt, and that she hoped I could forget what happened at the baby shower. I responded that I was willing to talk, but first I needed a sincere apology from her, acknowledging how she had treated me and how she had allowed her friend to humiliate me. Her response was basically, "I'm sorry you felt hurt," but without really apologizing for her actions. I told her that wasn't a real apology and that until she was ready for an honest conversation, I had nothing more to say. She got angry and told me that since I didn't want to be part of her daughter's life, she would make sure I never met her. I told her that was fine. That was her decision. My mom kept pressing me for months to apologize and be the bigger person. She would send me photos of my niece trying to make me feel guilty, telling me I was missing important moments and that someday I would regret it. I eventually had to tell her that I needed her to respect my boundaries, or I would have to distance myself from her too. She didn't like that at all, but at least she stopped pressuring me so directly. While all this was happening, I was continuing with my own pregnancy. I had decided not to tell my family anything because honestly, I didn't want them to ruin this experience for me. I only told Eric's and my close friends, and his family, who were super supportive. My pregnancy was relatively smooth. Some nausea at the beginning, but nothing terrible. Every time I went to an ultrasound or we had an update about the baby, I felt this mix of joy and sadness, because I knew my family wouldn't be part of this. In January of this year, like 6 months after the disastrous baby shower, Morgan sent me a message out of nowhere asking if I could watch her daughter twice a week because she was going back to work and daycare was too expensive. She didn't say hello, didn't ask how I was, just literally, "I need you to watch my baby Tuesdays and Thursdays." I responded with a simple, "No." She got angry and told me that was the least I could do after ruining her baby shower, that aunts should want to spend time with their nieces, and that besides I didn't have kids, so what else was I doing with my time? That last part hurt, because at that moment I was 7 months pregnant. But she didn't know. I told her I didn't owe her anything, that she had made her decision to keep me away from her daughter and now had to live with the consequences of that decision. She called me selfish and a bunch of other things. I blocked her at that moment, along with my mom, who had sent me a message telling me it was cruel not to help my sister with the baby. In March, I had my daughter. It was a natural birth. Everything went perfectly. And when I held her in my arms for the first time, I felt this incredible peace. Eric was crying with happiness. His parents came to the hospital and met their granddaughter, and everything was perfect without my family's drama. We were in the hospital for 2 days and then went home to start our life as a family of 3. I decided not to tell my family anything immediately because I needed that sacred time just for us. Like 3 weeks after the birth, I posted a photo of my daughter on Instagram. I didn't say anything about when she was born or anything, just posted a photo of her with a caption like, "Our little light." In less than an hour, my phone exploded. Morgan sent me like 20 messages asking if I had really had a baby. When? Why didn't I tell them? How could I be so cruel not to share something like that with family? My mom called me crying, saying she couldn't believe she had missed my pregnancy and the birth of my daughter. I didn't respond to Morgan, but I did talk to my mom. I explained calmly that after how they treated me during and after Morgan's baby shower, I didn't want my pregnancy and the birth of my daughter to be contaminated with that kind of toxicity, that I needed this time for me and my immediate family, and that I didn't regret my decision. She said she understood but was still hurt not to have been there. I told her that was a consequence of her own actions of not defending me when I needed it. Morgan sent another message saying I was a hypocrite. How could I judge her for not letting me meet her daughter when I did exactly the same thing with mine? I responded one last time before blocking her permanently, telling her the difference was that she pushed me away as punishment for having boundaries, while I pulled away as protection from her cruelty. It's not the same thing. My dad was the one who finally called like 2 months later. It was a weird conversation, because he's never the one who deals with emotional things. He told me the family was upset, that Morgan felt like I had taught her a lesson or something by having a baby, and not telling them, and that my mom cried often about not meeting her granddaughter. I told him, and I'm still surprised I had the courage to say this, that he had had multiple opportunities to defend me or at least support me during the baby shower and after, and that he had chosen to do nothing. That everyone in that family had chosen the comfort of not making waves over my emotional well-being, and that now they had to live with the consequences of those decisions. I told him that my daughter was going to grow up surrounded by people who loved her and who respected me as her mother. That I wasn't going to expose her to people who thought it was okay to publicly humiliate others or who asked for apologies but never changed their behavior. That maybe someday, if Morgan and my mom could give real apologies and show genuine change, we could reconsider things, but that in the meantime, my priority was my own family. My dad was quiet for a while and then said he understood, that he hoped someday things could be fixed, and that he wished me the best. It was probably the most honest conversation I'd had with him in years. Now my daughter is 8 months old and she's the best thing that's ever happened to me. Eric is an amazing dad. We have a wonderful group of friends who support us, and his family treats our daughter like the princess she is. Do I miss my family sometimes? I guess so. Or at least I miss the idea of what they could have been. But I don't miss the pain, the constant drama, and feeling like my feelings didn't matter. My daughter deserves to grow up seeing her mom being respected and standing up for herself, and I hope that teaches her to do the same when she grows up. I don't know what will happen in the future with my family, but for now I'm at peace with my decision. At the end of the day, you have to protect your own peace of mind and that of your immediate family, and that's exactly what I'm doing.